So Lancer Tactical sent us a gun to review. I'm as surprised as you are, but let's dig in. What's up everyone, I'm E-House from Gun Gamers, and today on the review table we have the Lancer Tactical LT329B model. It's one of their Warlord AEGs, and I refuse to say that combination of numbers and letters every single time I want to refer to it, so I'm going to call it the Lancer Tactical Warlord because it's part of that AEG series, and largely these will probably be the same between each member of the series. This is just the particular model that has this particular stock, which I will talk about in a minute. So, as I mentioned, this gun was sent to me by Lancer Tactical. I know, let that sink in. And they said, hey, we like your reviews. We're wondering if you'd want to take a look at one of our guns and do a review of it. And I was like, okay, sure. And they sent it to us, even though I warned them that, as always, we are always going to be brutally honest and we do not censor our opinions for anyone. Despite all that though, here the gun is. We've put it through some testing in the last couple of months, and we've probably put a combined total of about 5,000 or 6,000 BBs through it. We've used it a couple of indoor games, and we've shot it a bunch, just out at various range days and team gatherings. So this has been a game-used gun, and this is actually going to be a review based on a combination of notes from myself, Nando, and Mikey, because a few of us all used it because we wanted to get a collection of thoughts. Especially from Mikey, who is younger, he's 13, smaller kid, it's Chris's son if you don't know, and we figured it would be a good idea to get his thoughts on it because he might be about the target audience. To start with, this is a budget AEG. This gun, the whole Warlord series, generally comes in anywhere from like $175 to $225. Not particularly expensive. This is trying to vie for that combat machine SEMA AK kind of market, the entry level, so to speak. So as an entry level AEG, how does it fare overall? You know what? And I'm as surprised to be saying these words as anyone else. I would not really hesitate to recommend this for its price point, which sounds strange even as I say it, but it's really not bad. Dytac is the OEM for this, and from what I've been able to see using this gun, they did a pretty good job, all things considered. The gearbox is your standard budget AEG fare, plastic spring guide, plastic impression components, but it's got a steel cylinder and it seems pretty well put together. It cycles well. I haven't had any issues with it on an 11.1 volt LiPo battery. As for velocity and field usage, the gun chronos in around 365 to 375 feet per second. So it is actually usable at a field out of the box, unlike some of the SEMA AKs that come shooting 400 plus. So it is actually ready to be used at outdoor fields. As for CQB, a little bit hot for a lot of those fields, but if your CQB field allows like 350 with 2.5s, it's just under that. And if your outdoor field allows 400 with 2s, then it's perfect for that. So, hey, there you go. The trigger response and the rate of fire are pretty decent. The motor clearly favors torque because the trigger response is actually pretty snappy, and the rate of fire comes in around 18 rounds a second on an 11.1 volt LiPo, so not particularly fast for an 11.1. But the gun does come around shooting 365 to 375 feet per second. That's about the average. So the consistency is not great in terms of the FPS fluctuation, but it's not bad, again, considering the price point. If you really wanted to tune it, you could probably open it up and replace the O-ring on the piston head. That would probably increase the consistency. And then another thing I would change immediately, if this were my gun that I was going to be using a lot more, and I still might change it anyway, depending on whether or not Lancer Tactical wants us back, is the hop-up bucking. The hop-up bucking in this gun is a big weakness in my opinion. The barrel it comes with is a 6.03 millimeter brass tight bore according to the box. The bore quality appears pretty decent for a stock tight bore barrel as well, but the accuracy this gun gets is really not very impressive, even when we were using like 0.3 gram BBs on it. I think part of that is the FPS fluctuation, and I also think a big part of that is just, I think the hop-up bucking is not that consistent. So Lancer Tactical, if you want my biggest improvement to this gun right out of the box that you could do pretty cheap with a brand you already work with, maybe try putting a Lonnex hop-up bucking in here. I would say put a Crytac hop-up bucking in here as a simple drop-in fix, but you don't work with Crytac, you work with Lonnex, so try that. Other than that, though, the internal components, for its price point, this particular AEG retails around $175. They're not bad at all, and they seem to work fine. As for its actual use in game, the handling characteristics of the gun are pretty nice. You know, it's a pretty standard AR-like platform. One thing that's very interesting and that I know Nando initially didn't like but then came to appreciate, and that I always kind of thought was nifty, is the buttons for the controls are rather large. So it's not like you're ever going to accidentally miss hitting the magazine release for a reload. It might arguably be too big that you can hit it on accident, but overall, it's really not bad, and it just works well, and it's also ambidextrous. All the controls on this gun are ambidextrous. It kind of wants to be a fake SCAR, if that makes sense, or an ACR type thing, but it handles just fine, so I'm not complaining. It even has a working bolt catch, which is also ambidextrous. So that's kind of funny that they included that kind of feature at this price point, but it works, so hey, there you go. Another feature that's interesting is the key mod on the front. The key mod actually covers 7 sides of the 8-sided handguard, which is an integrated monolithic piece with the upper receiver, and according to a tag that came in the box, this upper receiver is apparently Cerakoted, which is a very durable and not cheap process. So again, it seems kind of odd that a gun at this price point is coming with that kind of finish. Now, there are a couple of spots where the Cerakote on mine has actually already started to wear, so I'm not sure if it's really a particularly high-quality Cerakote finish, but it is a nice, flat, nice-looking finish right out of the box, so hey, there's that, I guess. The gun also actually includes key mod rail panels. It came with this shorter one, and it came with this longer one. So they're just plastic, key mod panels, and it comes with this little foregrip here. But it, again, allows you to mount accessories right out of the box without having to worry about buying extra rail panels. So, you know what? That's kind of nice, again, for the price. One thing that is not nice for the price, or for any price, are the iron sights. So the backup iron sights are super basic on this, and they're just really cheap molded plastic. There's spring retention, so when you put them up, they stay up locked with a spring, and when you put them down, you have these pistol sights that you're never going to be able to use. You can't get down low enough for those. But they're not windage or elevation adjustable at all. So if you want to actually use this gun, mount a red dot. The iron sights, funny enough, work on enough that we were actually able to use them for some plinking. But whenever we passed this gun around to use in game, we always threw one of our red dots from one of our other guns on it, because these irons are pathetic. I get it, it's a cheap gun, but you include all this other stuff, and the stock iron sights you include are just terrible, so yeah, I guess you gotta skimp somewhere. The gun also includes a HexMag mid-capacity magazine, because Dytac is the OEM for the HexMag magazines as well. Kinda seems funny that the gun includes a HexMag mid-cap when it's kind of marketed as a beginner or entry-level price point gun. So it would seem to make more sense to me to include a high cap. Now, I kind of like HexMag mid-caps, even though mine have had problems. They work now, so I, using this with the HexMag mid-caps, kind of had a matching set. That was pretty fun. But like I said, just kind of seems an odd choice. But this particular HexMag mid-cap, I was never able to make it have any problems, so maybe the latest batch is better. But hey, one big weak point of this particular configuration of this gun, in my opinion, is the stock. I really do not care for the stock on this model. It's not that it's horrible, it's that it clearly feels very flimsy and very cheap in the way that you use it, and the way it's constructed. It's kind of like a Beretta ARX 160 style stock in that you pull this little lever and you can adjust the length, but it just, I don't know, it doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel as good as a buffer tube or an LE style stock. And the other problem is that when you're adjusting the length of pull, it's possible that you pull the stock entirely off by accident if you're not careful. Also, the battery compartment is very limited on this. To really get full use of the stock while having a battery in here, you're kind of limited to a small type LiPo. Now, I did run this gun on an 11-1, just because I wanted to accelerate any stress that we put on it. I just wanted to really give the gun a good thrashing before we put it on the review table because that's how we like to do things. And yeah, it just kind of barely fits in here, and it's kind of awkward. It is not very flexible with batteries. I would recommend one of the models with a buffer tube personally if you were looking at getting this, because I just don't like this stock. It's probably a good call that they didn't put any kind of sling mounting option on the end of this stock, because I feel like that kind of leverage laterally on this just plastic, I don't know if that would work out too well. Having the dual sling points on the end of the receiver and then the QD points right here very close to the end of the receiver is probably going to minimize the leverage and the problems that you'll create with that. One thing that could be a pro or a con of this gun is that it is very, very light. It feels extremely cheap when you first pick it up just because it's so light, but it's actually remarkably solid. Like, other than the magazine, there is no rattle or anything to this gun. It really is solidly built, which surprises me as much as anyone else, again, for the price point and coming from Lancer Tactical, but I think they really have a winner on their hands with Dytac as an OEM, because Dytac seems to know what they're doing, at least from what I'm seeing. And obviously the lightweight construction is a result of the polymer low receiver, polymer pistol grip, polymer stock, and the pretty darn skeletonized upper aluminum receiver. But hey, you know, the gun works and still feels solid, and this is kind of what allows it to come in cheap, so no complaints, I guess. A couple of surprising touches for this too are that it actually uses captive body pins. At least the front pin is captive. So if you want to disassemble the gun and get to the upper receiver, you can just push this pin out with your hand even. Just really, well, it's a really simple pin, and it's captive. You're not going to lose it if you need to get access to the rotary hop-up unit or anything, which is kind of cool. Kind of surprising, but again, not complaining. So you might notice that I've actually been remarkably kind to this gun. There's a couple of things that suck, like the iron sights and the hop-up bucking, but I also don't like the stock personally. But you know what? The actual innards and shooting performance of the gun, other than the accuracy, throw a new hop-up bucking in this thing, and I think you got yourself a solid sub-$200 gun. I am as surprised as you are, but just based on what we've seen using it in game and based on what I've seen shooting it, it's actually pretty decent. So, you know what? Take that for what it's worth. Lancer Tactical, you managed to surprise me. I guess I'm the fool on this one. Now, we're going to continue using this gun for more testing and to see how it really lasts for long-standing abuse. So we'll probably come out with an update video as we continue to pass this around and make good use of it. I'll probably replace the hop-up bucking and report back with how much better the accuracy is almost assuredly going to be. But you know what? For now, I think this is a pretty good summation of our first 5,000 round thoughts. So, in the meantime, I've been E-House from Gun Gamers. I hope you found this review informative and helpful. I'm signing off. Peace.